So, 2 episodes ago, I asked, who is watching the watchers? Last week, I showed you what happens when nobody is. The accountability paradox. The drift nobody caught. The decision nobody authorized. The moment a regulator asks a question that nobody inside the organization can answer. Today, I'm going to show you what it looks like when someone is watching. What it looks like when governance is not a document. It is infrastructure, running, continuous, generating evidence before anyone asks for it. This is episode 3 of the Veridian AI governance platform special episodes. I'm Magdalene, and today I want to talk about the architecture of trust. I want to start with a scenario, not hypothetical. This is the conversation I have been having with compliance leaders and CTOs across regulated financial services for the past year. You are the CISO of a mid-sized financial services firm. Your compliance team has just told you that under the EU AI Act, you need to document, classify, and evidence every AI system your organization uses. And you need to be ready to report serious incidents to the regulator from August 2026. You pull together your team and you ask a simple question. How many AI systems do we actually have? The answer in almost every organization I have spoken to is, we're not sure. There are the systems IT knows about, the models the data science team built, the co-pilot integrations someone in finance set up, the third-party credit decisioning tool that came bundled with a platform you adopted 2 years ago, the HR screening software that nobody in risk has ever looked at. And then there is August, a few weeks away, with an obligation to prove you have governed all of it. That is the problem I built Veridian to solve. Veridian is an AI governance platform. It launched on the Microsoft Azure Marketplace in May 2026. It is live. It is certified. And it is designed specifically for regulated organizations who need to do more than describe their AI governance. They need to prove it. The name comes from a deep, authoritative green, steady evidence, something you can stand behind. That is the intent. Let me walk you through what it actually does. Using the scenario I described. So you are that CISO. You open Veridian. The first thing you do is register your AI systems. There are 3 ways to do that, depending on how your organization works. The first is manual registration. You enter a system directly, recording what it is, what it does, where it is deployed, who owns it, and a few key questions. Does it make automated decisions? Does it affect individuals? Does it process personal data? The second is bulk import. If your organization already has an AI inventory, even if it lives in a spreadsheet, you can import it directly. Veridian ingests it, classifies every system automatically, and your entire inventory is live from day one. No manual re-entry. Third option for registration is a direct connection to Microsoft Copilot Studio. Any agent you have deployed there registers in Veridian automatically. No spreadsheet, no manual entry. The moment you connect your Microsoft tenant, your agents are visible, classified, and governed. For organizations that are running multiple agents in the Microsoft ecosystem, and that is the majority of the financial services firms I speak to, that changes the onboarding conversation entirely. The inventory builds itself. That sounds simple, but the act of doing it, of actually listing every AI system in the organization and answering those questions, is itself a governance act. Most organizations have never done it systematically. Veridian makes it the starting point, not an afterthought. The moment a system is registered, Veridian will classify it automatically, simultaneously across 6 regulatory frameworks, which are the EU AI Act, GDPR, DORA, the Cyber Resilience Act, ISO 42001, and the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. That matters because these frameworks are not separate conversations. A high-risk AI system in financial services does not just have EU AI Act obligations. It has DORA obligations, GDPR obligations, and CRA obligations that overlap and compound. Veridian maps them together in one place for each system. You are not managing 6 compliance spreadsheets. You are looking at one integrated picture. For each system, you get a risk tier: unacceptable, high, limited, or minimal. The specific regulatory provisions that apply across all relevant frameworks. And a plain English rationale, not legalese. A 2 or 3 sentence explanations written for a CISO or CCO, explaining exactly why the system has been classified the way it has and what that means for your organization. So if your HR screening tool comes back as high risk under Annex 3, employment and HR, you know immediately you need a conformity assessment, a human oversight mechanism, registration in the EU database, and an incident reporting procedure. Veridian tells you that specifically, not in general terms. Now let's talk about the governance that runs continuously. Registration and classification give you a baseline, but governance is not a one-time event. It is continuous. And this is where I want to spend some time because it is where most organizations fall short. A compliance document produced in January is not evidence of compliance in July. It is evidence of a snapshot. The AI Act does not care about snapshots. It cares about ongoing oversight. Article 14 is explicit on this. High-risk AI systems must be subject to human oversight throughout their operational lifetime. Veridian is built around that principle. Once a system is registered and classified, Veridian monitors it. Drift scores, performance signals, policy violations. When something changes, you are alerted. Not by email you might miss. Through Microsoft Teams, if that is how your organization operates. A direct notification into the channel your risk team already uses. But the monitoring is only part of it. The other part is evidence. Every action in Veridian is logged immutably with timestamps against your tenant. When a system was registered, when it was classified, when its risk tier changed, when an oversight review was completed, when an evidence pack was generated. That audit trail exists whether or not anyone ever asked for it. And the moment someone does ask, a regulator, an auditor, a board, it is there. So I want to say something about agentic AI specifically, because it is increasingly where the governance challenge lives. Agentic systems, AI that does not just analyze or recommend, but acts, carry a different risk profile. They have tools, they have permissions. In some cases, they have the ability to initiate actions that affect customers, contracts, or data without a human sign-off at each step. Veridian has a dedicated classification path for agentic systems. It looks at the tools that the agent has access to, the level of autonomy it operates with, whether it can take irreversible actions, and maps those directly to Article 14 oversight requirements. So you know not just that an agentic system is high risk, you know specifically what oversight controls the regulation requires for that system, given how it actually operates. That distinction matters. An agentic system with read-only access to customer data has a different governance obligation than one that can approve transactions. Veridian tracks that difference. So now I want to talk about the scenario that nobody wants to plan for, but everyone needs to. From August 2026, Article 73 of the EU AI Act requires that operators of high-risk AI systems report serious incidents to the relevant market surveillance authority. A serious incident is defined as one that results or risk resulting in the death of a person, serious damage to health, significant disruption of critical infrastructure, or serious fundamental rights violations. That threshold sounds high, but in financial services, the definition extends to systems that cause significant financial harm. A credit decisioning model that systematically disadvantages a protected group. An onboarding system that makes incorrect decisions at scale. A fraud detection tool that locks legitimate customers out of their accounts. The obligation is not just to fix the problem, it is to report it with the documentation within defined timelines. Veridian generates the Article 73 Serious Incident Report, not from scratch, from everything already in the system. The incident is logged. The affected system is already classified and documented. The evidence trail already exists. The report pulls all of that together into a structured document. 9 sessions, pre-filled, ready to submit or present to your board. The key word there is already. You are not scrambling to reconstruct what happened when the regulator calls. You are retrieving documentation that has been building since the system was first registered. So that is the difference between governance as infrastructure and governance as a response to a crisis. One of those positions puts you in front of the problem. The other puts you behind it. There is one other thing I want to mention on the evidence side, because it comes up in every enterprise conversation I have. Veridian versions its evidence packs. Every time you generate an evidence pack for a system, the previous version is retained. So if a regulator or auditor asks what your governance posture looked like in March versus what it looks like now, you can show them, not a summary, the actual versioned documentation, time-stamped and immutable. For any organization that has been through a regulatory review, you will know how much that matters. The question is not just what you did, it is what you knew, when you knew it, and what you did about it. So why does this matter at scale? I want to zoom out for a moment because I think there is a bigger argument here that gets lost in the compliance conversation. AI governance is not a constraint on AI deployment. It is what makes AI deployment sustainable. Think about the organizations that are going to move fastest with AI over the next 3 years. They will not be the ones who deployed first. They will be the ones who can prove their AI works as intended to their boards, to their regulators, to their customers, to the enterprise clients who will increasingly require it in procurement. So trust is a competitive advantage. And the ability to demonstrate, not just claim, that your AI systems are governed, classified, monitored, evidenced, is increasingly the thing that separates organizations that can operate freely from those that cannot. When I started building Veridian, I did not start with the technology. I started with a conversation. Specifically, I started with a gap I kept seeing between what regulated organizations said about their AI governance and what they could actually show. The gap was not because they did not care. It was because the infrastructure to close it did not exist in a form they could actually use. Spreadsheets do not generate audit trails. Policy documents do not monitor drift. Annual reviews do not catch a model that started behaving differently a few months ago. Veridian is the infrastructure, and because it is built on Microsoft Azure and has passed Microsoft Marketplace certification, it meets the security and data residency standards that regulated firms require. All data stays in the UK or your local region. The audit trail is immutable. The platform is built to enterprise grade, not because that is a nice to have, but because the organizations that need AI governance most are the ones that cannot afford a governance tool that introduces its own risk. If you are a CISO, CCO, or CRO in a regulated firm, and you're listening to this the week it comes out, then August 2026 is only a few weeks away. The Article 73 obligation is real. The evidence infrastructure that obligation requires does not appear overnight. Veridian is available today on the Microsoft Azure Marketplace. You've got the options for starter, growth, and enterprise tiers. No enterprise contract required. You can register your first AI system the same day you subscribe. The link is in the show notes. And you can also reach out to me on anaiya.org. And if you want to talk through what your organization's specific posture looks like, my details are on the show notes as well. So I want to close with the phrase I started with: the architecture of trust. Architecture implies something intentional, something designed, not just assembled. Something that holds weight over time because the foundations were built properly. That is what AI governance needs to be. Not a policy written for a certification. Not a spreadsheet that gets updated when someone remembers. An architecture running continuously, generating evidence, alerting when something changes, producing documentation that a regulator can read and a board can understand. The organizations that build the architecture of trust now are not just preparing for a regulation. They are building something more durable than that. A demonstrated capability, a governance posture that a regulator can inspect, a board can understand, and a customer can trust. That is not compliance. That is leadership. So, in our next special episode of Veridian AI Governance Platform series, I'm going to focus on the EU AI Act Decoded. So, I have read all 144 pages, so you do not have to. I'm going to tell you exactly what your organization needs to do in plain English, with no legal jargon and no unnecessary complexity. If you are in financial services and you're deploying AI, that is the episode you want to share with your compliance team. Until next time, keep leading intentionally. Thank you.